So this is the game. I've not analyzed it since playing it. So I've ran the analysis report, but I've not gone through it. So this will be the first time looking through this game together. Now, I remember there was obviously a key turning point. Vaguely remember when it was, but I'm sure we'll fight it together. So if you know me, you know E4 is pretty much my go-to move for opening. Here, I always struggle when there is this option to take the pawn, but I'm aware that there is an opening where you take the pawn. I really do hope one day I actually figure out the name of all of these openings. Queen takes, all makes sense. King comes out. King? Knight takes out even. Comes out. Queen goes back. And here, I think it's just a case of developing my pawns. I know I was toying with the idea of bringing my knight out, but I think I've done that in the past and it was the wrong option. So have some kind of influence over the center with the pawn protected by the queen. So he probably thought bring the knights out before the pawn. Here I'm thinking knights before bishops, which is what I did. Brings his bishop out. Immediately try and kick that bishop out. He should have taken the knight. Interesting, but he goes back. I bring my bishop out to protect the knight, just in case he wants to take it. That is an inaccuracy even. Should have just kept chasing that bishop out. And I'm going to try and commit that to memory because this happens on a few occasions. But I'm less keen to do that on the king side because generally I castle that side and opening up that side doesn't look fun. However, if I do have to open up that side, I assume I long castle. And that's a guess. I do not know, but I'm sure I will try it one of these days, or at least give it some study. He's bringing his pawn out, I assume to bring that his dark squared bishop out at some point. I try and preempt that and go to a3. He brings his bishop out, assuming that there is a castle kingside on the horizon for him. I customarily take my bishop out as always. The best move was actually the knight into the center onto e5. Not something I do, to be honest, with my bishop sitting on c1. I wouldn't have thought to bring the knight out. Something I'm going to have to study, obviously. Castles as expected. Castle as expected. Really, the engine really wants me to bring that knight out. Definitely something I'd like to investigate further. He should have actually kicked my bishop out, but his dark squared bishop moved back is perfectly fine. Now, trying to centralize my rook, but my queen should have come up. I don't know. Either or, there's not a massive difference on the eval bar. 0.04 difference. I can live with that. Blocks in his own knight. Now I decide to chase away the bishop because I'm thinking that I can trap it. Once the bishop goes to g6, I can then move the knight to where it's suggesting. He obviously has to go back, and I move the knight. So everything looked like it was kind of going to plan here. bishop's trapped. If I take the bishop, it's weakening the pawn structure around his king. But if he took with the f7 pawn, it kind of opens up his rook. And I've castled on the side I said I shouldn't have, and I've left myself wide open, which isn't great. He comes down, his knight, I take, he takes. Now, to be honest, I would have definitely have taken with the f7 pawn, which was an inaccuracy, and he should have taken with his h7 pawn. Again, something worth looking at another time. So I brought my bishop out. I just thought if I can get some kind of pin on that pawn, that would be good, because now it's attacked twice and it's not defended at all, and I'm staring down at the king. The light squared bishop is staring at the king. Looks great. So he brings his knight across. Kind of sucks because it's attacking my knight. He should have actually moved his other knight, which would have been a bit more annoying. So now both of our dark squared bishops are looking at each other. Our knights are looking at each other. I've got some central squares in the line of sight with my queen and my rook. So I'm up. It's 2.2 on the eval bar in my favor, which I'm not going to grumble at. I don't like my f2 pawn at this point. It's only being protected by the king. That doesn't sound great, and my king's safety doesn't look wonderful. However, I take. Thankfully, that's the best move. I was not sure. Takes back with the queen, kind of forced, and then I moved. So here, I think I just wanted my knight in the center of the board to influence, or at least threaten, this more squares than if I'd taken his knight. I imagine if I took that knight, he would have taken back with his c pawn. My light squared bishop's then going to have to move. It doesn't look great for me, in my mind anyway. So that's why I moved over to e4. It's then actually chose the best move, which was his rook coming down. I could already see that he was going to triple up on the f file with the rook, the queen, and his other rook on a8. So things weren't looking rosy for me here. Definitely not looking rosy. I moved the queen out to attack the rook, but more so to protect my pawn on f2, because I did not fancy how things were transpiring. It weren't looking great, as I suspected. Doubling up on the f file with the queen not too far behind, I'm sure. So now that rook's protected twice. When I say that rook, I mean the rook on f4 is protected by a rook and his knight. I move my rook to create another defender of that pawn, and also to open up my a1 rook at some point. But the best move would have been to g5. What a change. So the eval bar goes from 0.54 all the way to 3. Again, it would have been good for me to do some analysis on that, because that is absolutely huge. Should have moved the queen down, but obviously he went to attack my bishop. I went back. Says I should have taken the knight. Would have made sense, I think. Just reducing the number of people or number of pieces that could mate me. Queen finally comes down. So that's 3 attackers on my f2 pawn. It's protected by my rook, my knight, and then secondarily by the queen and by my king. Also, my h3 pawn is not defended. So I don't see a way out at this point. This does not look great. It's definitely a position where there is little room for salvation, because I don't feel like I have enough defenders. There's a ton of pressure on my position around my king. That was my blunder. I should have actually moved to g2. Again, definitely something I will investigate in another video. That is a terrible move. I've gone down to 8.5. So I don't think it could have been any worse. I don't think there was a worse move. But for some reason that was not taken advantage of. He should have taken my knight, but he took my pawn, and the pawn I would have taken back is obviously pinned with the queen. Again, I should have taken that knight. I'm thinking, let's exchange rooks. I need less pieces near my king. He took, I took, still 4.12, minus 4.12. I can see that, again, his knight, his rook, his queen, that pawn on h3 is unprotected. Things don't look fantastic for me. My king's just out there waiting to be checkmated. Takes the pawn as expected. I think I moved my queen in a bid to, I don't know where I was going after that. I think I was going to try and attack his queen at some point, and the engine still wants me to take that knight. Although looking at that knight, it didn't look like it had any great squares to go to. Actually, other than f4, that would have been good for him. But alas, oh, he did go to f4. There we go. So it's now minus 6.9. I am in serious trouble here. Looking to exchange queens because it's the only way out, I think. With that queen, that knight, that rook, I just needed to reduce the numbers of pieces attacking my king. So that was the plan. He put me in check. I then took the knight. It is, what are we looking at? Minus 5.8 now. I'm still not happy at all. Then the blunder on his side was moving his knight to b6. And he should have brought the bishop, should have brought the rook down. And it went to 8.82. Massive. That's a massive swing of the pendulum on one move. And that's what it took. Bringing that rook down, I think with a view to delivering checkmate on g2 potentially, or just, I guess, delivering a check with the rook, I'd say, on g4. So that's why I decided to attack the queen. And then mate in 3 after that blunder. I think he was protecting, he was moving his queen to not get taken, but also attacking my knight. Best move to deliver the check. His only move. And then I was going for that smothered mate, because once the queen gets taken by the rook, my knight then goes to f7, smothered mate. But unfortunately for me, my opponent resigned. There's a lot for me to analyze in this game. There's a lot. I made my fair share of mistakes. I think there was a huge turning point for me. Was it the king? I think it was before then. I think I was doing quite well up until here. The queen takes, and then there. That was a mistake. Yeah, that's when it all went downhill. It just kept getting stronger. I think that was the main one. That would have been the main move, from minus 0.5 to minus 3. I think that sealed my fate. That's the kind of move I'd want to investigate. So let's have a look. The best move was G8. Oh, sorry, not G8. Sorry, G5. And that would have just taken it to minus 6.2. So he would have been about. He'd be half a piece up. But I think I'll do a separate video series on the analysis of a particular move I either didn't understand or was quite influential over the entire game. But upon reflection, now I've done the analysis, I don't think I got to smothered mate by playing well. I think I got to smothered mate by my opponent blundering. And I guess that's what you have to do. You have to minimize your mistakes and take advantage of your opponent's mistakes, which I did. So a victory is a victory, a win is a win. I'll take that. I'll do some deeper analysis in another video, but I hope you guys get a smothered mate. If you do, record it, put it online, because they're rare and they are a thing of beauty. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'm now going to have to record a 5-minute game. I've not done that in a while. And I thank you for watching if you've lasted this long. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.